Hello, hello, hello. You are here. This is Radio Free Wall Street. It's 5 o'clock New York time, and we've got a crisis. This one's kind of knocked the shit out of me, by the way. I want to say this to you. I knew it's coming. We knew it's coming. You know, it was pretty obvious. And sometimes realities of events just kind of hit you like a bullet in the brain. You know something bad is going to happen. You know, do you ever hear that? Let me see if I can give it to you this way. Did you ever have an accident? You fall off a ladder, or you cut yourself severely, and you got that few seconds? It seems like a few seconds. It's probably a lot less than that. Where you know the pain's coming, but it's not there yet. You know, it's just that kind of like that time lag. Well, I've been in that time lag all day today, and I knew this was coming, and I kind of was very disturbed by it. I just find myself sitting going, why do you do this? Now, I can understand the art of the deal. Really, I can understand Donald Trump being really pissed off about the deep state. I can understand that he wants to get stormy weather and clouds to blow over and this investigation over with and something else people's talking about. You know, there's a very proud guy, and how all this swirling around has really pissed him off. And I regard this sanctions deal, pulling out of the agreement, as absolutely the dumbest thing to date, okay? And I'm going to tell you why, and I'm going to tell you what my great fears are. And, silly mistakes can cause problems. And being in leadership is really, really, really a burden. I would never want to be a politician. I would never want to be a president or a senator because I don't want the awesome responsibility. And I don't think I'm the right personality for it either. So, I mean, I'm doing what I should be doing, and I'm good at what I do, and I know what I shouldn't be doing. Donald Trump's an example of a man that should not be president, okay? And this pulling out of this trade agreement, I'm explaining to you why I'm so concerned about it, is downright stupid. Now, let's set some of the parameters here. Yes, it was a very dumb agreement. Yes, we gave up too much. Yes, Iran can't be trusted. And yes, they were cheating their asses off. All that's true, okay? But we made an agreement, okay? And that agreement came at a consensus. And there was, by the way, our CIA directors, all testified that, they were pretty much in line with the agreement, by the way, for a number of years. So it wasn't just the Obama White House in this thing. So there were a lot of mistakes made, and by both Republicans and Democrats, no doubt about it. And that's the nature of the world we live in, okay, especially with a rogue regime like the Iranians. And yes, they are a state sponsoring terrorism, okay? All that is absolutely gospel true, okay? And yes, the agreement needs to be modified, but here is the problem. In a nutshell, you've got to move ahead in this world with a consensus, okay? We had the Allies in World War II. Without the Allies, we would have never won the war. America has got to, more than ever, build a consensus of like-minded countries, of freedom-loving countries, and stand up against the crazies, all right? Now, all democracies are flawed. I mean, the Canadian system of democracy is different than ours. Australia is a lot different. Britain is a nanny state. The French can be really maddening. And the Italians can be very, should we say, not serious, okay? And the Spanish, well, they got a lot of issues. But listen, be careful. This is the best we've got, okay? The European democracies and the North American democracies are as good as it gets around the world, okay? They're not perfect, but we don't have gas chambers in America. And we don't have ethnic cleansing in Canada. And we don't have prisoners locking everyone else up in Britain, okay? And we have the rule of law even in Germany after the horrible time they went through. And you're striving to move the world ahead, okay? With all its warts and pimples. Now, I've lived in most of these countries we just discussed, and I don't mean vacation. I'm saying live there. And I can tell you that there are pluses and minuses in all the systems. There are flaws. And there are problems that are nationalistic in nature, okay? And then we have the universal ones. But for the most part, let me try to explain it this way. Europeans are damn decent people, okay? For the most part, these are kind people. They're looking to have a life and don't want to bother anybody. That's true of most Americans. That's true of the Canadians. That's true of the Brits. That's true of almost all the Europeans. That is not true, for example, by like a country like Mexico. Okay, Mexico is building a narco state, and it's state-sponsored because it brings a lot of money. And that's not true of a country like Venezuela, okay? And when you get down to Brazil, Brazil's just kind of mixed up place and mixed up people. It's kind of halfway. Now, when you get over to Europe, you know, again, these are civilized people, and there is a greater degree of freedom. Let's face it. In America, in Canada, in Europe, we enjoy most liberties that mankind has ever had. And we're basically a long way from the bad old days. Now, when you get to the Middle East, you get to Saudi Arabia, and you get to Turkey, and you get to Iran, oh my God, you're moving back to like we're going medieval on us, okay? When you deal with Russia, Russia's just a thug state, okay? Russians are really brilliant people, and really hard-working people, okay? And they have great resources, and if they could ever shake the tyranny of their dictator, Putin, it could become a great country. But it is a problem country. China is very interesting, and China is intriguing. China is a repressive state. There's no free speech. And it's kind of a mix of, if you understand the unique nature of the Chinese people, they are survivors. And they can work in that system. By the way, I don't know how they do it. And they can kind of finagle here and there and get it done and understand where the parameters are. You and I would end up in jail in 5 minutes in that country. So we've got these rogue states that are really bad actors, and that's like China included, Russia included. And those are the two main ones. And you got all the baby states that are, you know, like your Mexico, your Central American countries, these banana republics still exist. And you've got the huge problem in the Middle East, okay? You got Turkey that is now oppressing its people, gone to the bad side. You've got Iraq that you can't even call it a young democracy. You know, it's kind of like up in the air. You got Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states. They're nothing but kingdoms with this really nasty people in control. You got Iran that is a nasty theocracy. Now, that means that mankind has got to strive to change this equation and change the parameter. And in a very interesting way, one of the ways we've done that is with trade, okay? Nixon well understood what the situation was with China, and he rightly understood that free trade kind of has to be opened up, okay? Reagan well understood the Berlin Wall and the evils of communism, and his farsightedness, you know, you freed a lot of people in Europe that were in bondage for the time of World War II, okay? So you have these moments of great strides, but unfortunately, no progress is straight up. Now, with the fall of the Shah in Iran, who was supported by the CIA, who was a nasty piece of work in his own right, we end up with something even nastier. By the fact that we didn't engage them militarily early on means that now we pay a high price. The Iranian is a criminal state. It is an oppressive regime. And the Iranian people suffer terribly. Now, we got a problem. And let me explain to you the problem and explain to you the lack of thought here. We got a headline, okay? But we are now negotiating with Kim Yum Numchucks, and I don't have a lot of hope for that. But you never know. You see, the problem is you got to try, okay? Before you send the armies and you send the Marines and the bloodshed, you always got to send the negotiators, okay? Especially as a great power of America. And yeah, we are our brother's keeper. And yeah, we are the world's policeman. And yeah, we benefit greatly from that power. You hear me? We benefit greatly. Now, we shrug that responsibility and we turn it within like the English did. And shit, they can't even keep Northern Ireland, okay? So it's a big mistake. And already with the Trump policies of a brand of American isolationism, we were seeing criminal elements like in Central America and Mexico become very serious, okay? What was drug cartels will now become military powers that will become dictators, and they will have weapons of mass destruction. We've made the mistake with Putin and Russia and the Crimea. We should have slapped them hard. We should have slapped them militarily. NATO should have taken back the Crimea and taught Putin a lesson. We didn't do that. In Syria, when those weapons of mass destruction were used, holy shit, we should have flattened the son of a bitch then and there. Russia wasn't there then, okay? So, one of the great, I'll tell you a great story. The Arab Spring was kind of Obama's wet dream, and it ties into the story. And he saw Islam rising up and shaking off his bondages and becoming one of the world's great religions. That didn't happen. And the Islamic Brotherhood, with a lot of money, over $1 billion in donations from Obama, took over in Egypt. And Egypt started changing, okay? Egypt has been a moderate Arab state. I mean, Islamic state. And the Egyptians have had a feet in both worlds, okay? Incredible society in a lot of ways. And not a place I'd want to live, but you have to respect them. And they did things like capitalized a $2 or $3 billion expansion of the Suez Canal, brought it in on time, under budget, and have changed shipping flows, by the way, with that expansion. Most people don't realize that. And when they saw that these radical assholes were coming in there and, no drinking and covering women and all that crazy shit, they sort of said, no, this is not going to happen in Egypt. And the Egyptian people, at a horrible price, took back their country. Now, the work isn't settled, and it's a lot of nasty business, but that just goes to show you that freedom is hard to get, it's harder to keep, and it's even harder to get back. And the Egyptians, I salute them, have done that. Now, the Iranian people live under the yoke of tyranny of a crazy system, a theocracy run by absolute madmen. And it was the Iranian people that suffered under our sanctions, okay? And absolutely, these assholes, you don't want to have nukes. Well, the nice thing about the Iranians is they don't have high yield. They cannot engage the world in a conventional war, never mind a nuclear one. And the Ayatollahs will glow in the dark, and they know that, okay? So I want to say to you that Iran getting nukes is the equivalent of Pakistan getting nukes. It is not a superpower that can do a lot with it, and any ambitions they have would be lead to destruction. So now we're at a very badly negotiated deal, no doubt about it. But remember, at the time that was negotiated, everybody was sick of the Iraq War. Everyone was sick of just the whole Middle East, and everybody wanted to settle business. And it was a horrible deal. But it was a deal we made. It was a deal we signed. Okay, now, there's something about a principle, and if you're a businessman, you understand that, if you haven't made bad deals that cost you a lot of money, then you haven't made enough deals. And you make good deals, you make bad deals, and you live with your deals, okay? And there's so much, as a world power for a country like America, we're going to make bad deals. We're going to get involved in bad negotiations. We fight stupid wars, okay? We don't always get it right. But America has never gone in a country with the idea of taking over their land or taking over their resources. Really, we haven't done that, okay? To our credit. We're not the conquering power that we are and that we could be. To the great credit of the American people. We really don't have designs on other people's territory. But we really need to be the world policeman. And we really need to move freedom around the world, okay? Because it helps all of us, okay? Now, we have spent an immense amount of our resources on two things. One is the social program system with the Social Security, and I call them the welfare state expenditures and entitlements. And then we spent a lot of money on military, okay? A lot of money. Now, militaries by nature are inherently wasteful. They're not a business. And by nature, war is a wasteful event. I mean, you're in the destruction business. And America is the most expensive military in the world and probably pretty close to the most inefficient. I mean, as far as how we budget and spend money, there's no doubt about that. But, and you got to get that button there really quick here, we have a fantastic military, loyal, dedicated, highly trained, most sophisticated and best equipped in spite of all the problems. Now, you have to be very careful about the jobs you ask your military to do. And you have to be very careful about deployments. And although our military will do anything we ask them, amazing, it really helps if they understand it and they feel it in their guts, okay? Now, where we are making an error here is this, and this is what my grave concern is, and I'm very bothered. I've had a really bad day on this thing. It was really kind of struck me hard, and that is that we had world leaders actually come into the White House, despite the fact they smiled before the cameras, trying to talk reason to Donald Trump, and he really didn't listen, okay? And again, you got a bad deal, okay? Now, you walk this bad deal, and you walk it without your partners, and you start making an even worse deal. What I'm saying to you is the colossal mistake you've seen make today. Now, remember, he can walk this back, okay? I'm hoping maybe this is just a headline like, I'm going to make steel great, and every ounce of steel from everywhere in the world is going to have a tax on, blah, 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 and didn't do it, okay? I'm hoping that he can walk back this thing and, kind of, sugarcoat it and make it work, get his publicity stunt, and move on. But I'm afraid that we're making a mistake. Let me tell you what it is. You can't walk back from the deal. You made a bad deal? Fine. We make lots of bad deals. That's the nature of making deals. And Donald Trump made lots of bad real estate deals too, by the way. Lots of them, okay? And greatly diminished the family fortune in his bad deals despite the PR spin. So he knows how to make bad deals. Now, when you've got a bad deal, the solution is you go to your partners and you convince them to improve the deal. Iranians are extremely difficult negotiators. Now, again, do not make the mistake that most people do and assume that they are a primitive, uneducated culture. They are not. They are very smart people. One time they were world power. So don't discount that you're dealing with some very serious people. And don't discount that maybe they were like smarter than we were in some ways. I think we sent the wrong man in John Kerry to negotiate the deal, by the way. I think his liberal idealism got in the way. And we paid a price. Look, whatever leaders we put in power, right or wrong, you got to live with them, okay? Donald Trump's our president. I sure as shit don't agree with him on most everything, but he is the president. And that gives him certain latitude and certain prerogatives. Now, the idea of the citizens and the Congress and, the various parties is to try to negotiate something that's sausage. And the problem we have is that we're so polarized that we're not making good decisions. We're not taking advantage. Let me get some tea here. We're not making decisions that are of a consensus nature, and we're not necessarily making decisions with our best and brightest input. Hang on, tea time. Now, hallmark of the Trump administration is, and that's probably because he was never a politician before, never in office. So he didn't understand you don't get everything. And it was like he wanted everything on Obamacare and he didn't get it and he walked away from the deal. DACA, they had a deal, walked away from it. The wall, he got part of it, he walked away from that. So Donald Trump's problem is he's really a shitty negotiator. And his mistakes from the tax break bonanza for billionaires is a mistake. These trade negotiations he's opening up and not in a wise way, not in a smart way, he's going to bite him in the ass. But the biggest mistake he's made now is this Iran thing. And let me tell you a couple reasons why. Iran is a problem. Iran was a problem before the negotiations. Iran was a problem during the negotiations and during the sanctions. And Iran's a problem now. But you've made him a bigger problem by walking back the deal. Because the Iranians understand that Donald Trump is not dealing with them from a position of strength. He doesn't have the other participants in the deal, and his sanctions are going to be very limited, and the Iranians are smart enough to know how to play two ends against the middle and use their relationships with Airbus and other begging for business German and European companies. So that means that what the Iranians are doing is basically separating us from our allies, and that is not smart. Because remember, we still have to deal with Syria. We still have to deal with Kim Jong-nunchucks. And we've squandered our goobers. And let me explain to you why. Kim Jong-nunchucks is being backed in a corner. No doubt about the sanctions are really hurting him. No doubt about the Chinese are letting the sanctions hurt him because they've got a bigger issue, and they don't want Kim Jong-nunchucks to come in the way of the business they need to do with the United States, if you understand that, okay? So they got trade negotiations coming up. Now, the problem you've got is that Kim Jong-nunchucks will say, well, look, what the hell is the use of negotiating? Whatever deal we've got, they will not stick with. And why bother doing it? Now, there were consultations today with nunchucks and the Chinese premier on just this very issue. Now, the problem you have got is that we are now taking a very dangerous walk, and let me tell you what this is. And by the way, it can, you know, there's the wiggle room here. Okay, he got his press thing. It was a very nasty press conference, not behooving of how I believe it should have been done. But Donald Trump likes to walk on the nasty side, as we know, and he did it. But now, the question is, how soon do the sanctions go in place? The banking financial ones. There is a clock of 180 days there, so we have to figure out how fast these guys are going to let this thing come apart. And that is very much a great unknown. And so we're in the next week or so, we should understand exactly what sanctions he's initiating and how severe they are, okay? If he makes the mistake of going crazy with them, well, he's going to go ahead and damage the United States even further. He's going to polarize our allies. And let me clarify something right now. Every drop of oil that Iran wants to have flow into market will be. This is not an oil event, although the oil manipulators like to resent that because they're trying to get, their $80 barrel oil. But the reality is this is not an oil event. This is not going to stop the flow of oil, okay? Now, what this is possibly a military event. In other words, does Iran use this as an excuse to set up its proxy wars? Does Iran do an attack to drag Israel into the fray? I can tell you that the Middle East analysts are very concerned about a pending confrontation between Israel and Iran. And they're also concerned that mistakes happen. Remember, you have U.S. troops there in Syria. And you've got Iranian troops there. You got Russian troops there. You got Syrian troops there. You got Iraqi troops there. You got Kurd troops there. It's a great big goddamn mess. And it's the kind of place that things can spin out of control to no one's benefit and by no one's desire, okay? And it's really a problem place in that we could be walking into that very big danger zone there. And that's part of the problem with how Donald Trump went about this. This should have been done with a consensus. This should have been done calmly. This should have been done quietly. And we probably could have negotiated something, okay? Iran had sent signals that it was willing to negotiate. They didn't call it that, but they were willing to work something out. And Donald Trump, picked up the gauntlet and slapped him in the face and said, "Go to hell, you son of bitches." And that is what is to my profound disappointment and a really amateur mistake that a seasoned politician would not make. So what our problem is, Donald has walked into a quagmire. He has got us into a big shit. And now the question is, can the people around him kind of put out the fires? Now, he's got some of the crazies that he's brought in that have had a hard-on from Iran since morning. And he has got other people. I mean, he's got his own intelligence people that testified last year that Iran was in compliance. I mean, how do you square with that? So there's some real problems here. And remember, this all goes back to Donald Trump, the showman, the TV star, reality TV executive, that needs to present a situation like, I'm the star, I'm the guy, I'm doing it, I'm the guy. Look at me, don't look at the prosecution, don't look at Mueller, don't look at Manafort. Look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me, vote me, vote me, vote me. Okay? And that is a Donald Trump strategy that is very dangerous. and frankly will not work. Okay, I can tell you for a fact that world leaders from England to Germany to France to Canada are really pissed off at this guy. Okay, they are really troubled with Donald Trump, and they're dismayed, and they're more and more coming to the opinion that maybe it'd be nice if he was impeached. Okay, Donald Trump is building enemies like no man I've ever seen, and he is not thinking about what he's doing, and it's all about the swagger, the headline, and the roar of his primitive base. Should we put it that way? And this means that we're going to pay a very high price. So we will, in the coming days and weeks, analyze how bad this is. But right now, I got to tell you, I'm very troubled. I'm going to be at my screens all night trying to piece together exactly where he's going in this thing. Anticipate. Like I said, we talked about it all week. We knew he was going to do this. There's no doubt about that. And we're going to have to wait and see how this affects the negotiation with Kim Yum-Numchucks. It's certainly not a positive for that. And the next problem we've got is the backlash. See, you have a reaction, but then you've got to wait for the reaction. And that hasn't happened yet. And I'm not so sure that the craziness in Iran is not spreading, and that we may get a reaction we're not happy with. Okay, I'm just going to put it that way. You just do not want to pull out of negotiations quickly, and you don't want to play a hand that no matter how the cards lay down is a losing hand. In other words, exactly what is Donald Trump going to win this? Is he really going to win a desist in Iran's nuclear capacity and abilities and stockpiles? Hell no. Is he going to stop their rocket developments? Hell no. This is not the way to deal with them. Now, like I said to you before, and I really wanted to emphasize this point, both with Russia and the Crimea, Kim Yum-Numchucks of North Korea and his incredibly successful nuclear program, and Iran with their nuclear and rocket programs and the mischief and the sponsor of world terrorists, at some point you may have to deal with these people militarily. Okay? And I don't think Donald Trump's willing to do that. So I think they're all of the opinion that his weapon is sanctions and the bully pulpit and haranguing, and that means that, let me translate that in English, that means there's more bullshit and blow and go. He really damaged themselves with the steel tariffs and how he's going to make U.S. steel great again in aluminum. He's damaged himself with this wall. And so a lot of people are regarding him as a guy that's all blow and go, and that you may have to just survive the fluster, and because there's nothing going to come behind it. And if that's the conclusion that they draw, and that's the way they play the game, we may have created a bigger mess than we solved. So this is a sad day. The United States backed out of a deal it negotiated in a bad way, and that was not the way to do that. And like I said, you make a bad deal, you live with it, you compromise, you negotiate, but walking away from it as a world power diminishes your stature both among your enemies and your friends, and Donald Trump has done that today. And I again say to you that there's going to be a horrible price to be paid for this.